Square and square root first. Let's quickly talk about square and square root. Now, when you say a square number is when you multiply a number by itself. A square number is when you multiply a number by itself. For example, if you say, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this from this place. Let's take a look at this from this place. Okay. Now, when you say a square number, you're saying when you multiply a number by itself. When you multiply a number by itself. So if I say square number, when I say square number, it means I'm multiplying the number by itself. I'm multiplying the number by itself. Square number is when you multiply the number by itself. Okay, wait, this, I don't know what type of writing this is doing. Let me erase, and then we write properly. I don't know why it was. So let's say square number, right? Square numbers. So square numbers I would write NO, then I put a small distance below it. Square number, it's when you multiply a number by itself. So for example, 2 square, it means what? It means 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. 2 times 2, which is 4. 2 times 2, which is 4. Right? So if I say 3 square, let's start from 1. 1 square, it's simply 1 times 1. It's simply 1 times 1, which is 1. 1 times 1 is what? 1. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. So square number, when you hear the word square number, you are saying multiply the number or taking the number to the power of 2, raising it to the power of 2. So, and then what it simply means is to multiply the number by itself. So multiply the number by itself. So when you say square number, you just say, for 3, you say 3 times 3. 3 times 3, which is 9. 3 multiplied by 3 gives you 9. Okay? 3 multiplied by 3, you get 9. For 4 square, it's same. The story continues like this, right? 4 square will be 4 times 4, which is 16. 4 times 4, which is 16. For 5 square, is the same. 5 times 5, which is 25. So I will not be multiplying anymore. I'll just put the square and then I put the answer. Okay? 5 square will be 25. 6 square will be what? 6 square will be 36. 6 square will be 36. That means 6 times 6 we get 36. 7 square will give us what? 7 square will give us 7 times 7, which is 49. 7 square gives us 49. 8 square gives us what? 8 square gives us 8 times 8, which is 64. 64. 9 square gives us what? 9 square gives us 9 times 9, which is 81. Right? 9 times 9, which is 81. 10 square gives us what? 10 square gives us 10 times 10, which is 100. 10 square gives us 100. Yeah. So 11 square. So we can continue, you know. 11 square is what? 11 square is 11 times 11, which is 121. Right? 121. 11 times 11, 121. Okay? Then 12 square is what? 12 square is what? 12 square is what? 144. 12 square is equal to 144. Okay? 30 square is what? 30 square is what? 169. 169. 40 square is what? 40 square is what? Is it 196? 40 square, is it 196? Yep. It's 196. 40 square is 196. 50 square is what? 225, right? 50 square is what? 225. 225. Right? 60 square is what? 60 square is 200 and what? 56, right? 256. For 60 square, you get this. Oh, these are all square numbers. All these numbers like 1, 60, 25, 36, 49, they are all called numbers. 64, and they are all called square numbers. Okay, 70 square is what? 70 square is what? 200 and what? 289, right? 289, that's 70 square. Open number. 80 square is what? This one will get up to 300. You see, 80 square is 324. 324. 90 square is what? 361, right? 90 square is 361. 361. Right? You need to know this number. 20 square. 20 square is what? 400. Yeah, 20 square is easy, right? You square 2, you get 4. 0. Once 0 is square, you get 2 zeros. So you get 400. 21 square is what? 441, right? 21 square is 441, right? 22 square is what? Could you put square here? Could you put square in 21? Or could you do same to 20? Okay. 22 square is 484, right? No, not 484. Is it 484? 22 square? 484. Okay, yeah, 484. 23 square is what? 23 square is 500 and what? 29, right? 529, right? 24 square is what? 24 square is what? 24 square is what? 576. 576. And then we stop here at 25. 25 square is what? 600. This one is very popular. 625. This one is very popular. 625 for 25 square. Okay, so we need to know at least the first 25 or first 30 square numbers. You need to know the first 25 or the first 30 square numbers, right? Now that's for square. Now when we talk about square root, what do we mean? When we say square root, what's the difference between square and square root? Square root is to go to the reverse, right? Square root. Yeah, is to go to the reverse, and it has a symbol. Square root has a symbol. The symbol for square root is this one. This is the symbol for square root. So if I write like this, if I write 16 here, what it means is that first of all, I will find, it means I should find a number that if I multiply twice, I will get 16. If I multiply by itself, I will get 16. So you know 60 is what? 4 times 4, right? You can know that by dividing 16. If you don't know, let's say it's a big number, because it's 60, that's why you know easily. You can just do division. 60 divided by 2, you get 8. 8 divided by 2, you get 4. 4 divided by 2, you get 2. Then 2 divided by 2, you get 1. See, you can see this and this, and this and this. So this and this, 2 times 2 is 4, and then this 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 times 4, you get 16. 4 times 4, you get what? 16. So you can see what we have here. So the next step is to say The next step is to say the root of 4 square. The root of 4 square. Okay? Because 4 times 4 means 4 square. So instead of writing 4 times 4, I simply replace it with what? With 4 square. So this square always cancels square root. Square always cancels square root. I think we should use a different color to show that. Square always cancel square root. So square root always cancel square. They cancel each other out. So the remaining answer is 4. That's why the square root of 60 is 4. So we just demonstrated how the square root of 60 is 4. But another thing that I want to bring to your notice is that the answer is plus and minus. Why? It's not just 4, it's plus 4 and minus 4. Why? Why is the answer plus and minus? Because if you say minus 4 multiplied by minus 4 multiplied by minus 4, you will get what? You get positive 16. You get positive 16. Right? If you also say ordinary 4 plus 4 times 4, you also get positive 16. So in order to get 16, if you find the square root of 16, you get the answer is either minus 4 or plus 4. Meaning, because it's already quadratic, it's 2 cases now. It's 2 case scenario. So when you find the square root of a number, the answer, although we just write only 4, but actually the answer is plus minus of that number. Similarly, if you take that's the square root question number 1. Let's take question number 2. Let's take another question. Let's say if we take for question 2, we ask you to find the square root of find the square root. I can use this for abbreviation squares. Square is SQ, root is RT. So I can ask you to find the square root of 25. If I ask you to find the square root of 25, this is what you simply do. So you write 25, right? You write the root. You draw the root on top, right? And then you also know 25, if you break it down, is 5 times 5. 25 is what? 5 multiplied by 5, right? 5 multiplied by 5, you put the root. And then you know 5 multiplied by 5 is same as say 5 square. It's same as simply say 5 square. So, and you put the root. And you know square always cancel the root. Square root cancel square. They cancel each other out. The remaining answer is 5. So 5 becomes the answer. This is how we simply use square root mathematically to evaluate square root. How we use it mathematically. What if I say, I simply say, let's say 64 for question number 3. If I ask you to find the square root of 64, SQ RT, find the square root of 64. So even if you don't know, you can break 64 down. However, 64 is simply, the square root of 64 is simply 8 multiplied by 8. It's simply 8 multiplied by 8. But if you don't know, let's say for example you don't know, the number is a big number, you can simply break down 64 somewhere. You can break any number you don't know, you break it down. 64 divided by 2, you get 32. 32 divided by 2, you get 16. 16 divided by 2, you get 8. 8 divided by 2, you get 4. 4 divided by 2, you get 2. 4 divided by 2, you get 2. 2 divided by 2, you get 1. So you can see these are the factors. 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 times 2, that's 6 places. So here I have this times this times this, right? Which is 8. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So here I have 1, 8. You also see here 2 times 2, okay, times 2, this other one. So 2 times 2 times 2 is another 8. So 64 is simply 8 times 8. 64 is simply 8 times 8, right? 64 is simply 8 times 8. So which means I draw my square root, I write 8 square, right? Because it's repeated twice, 8 times 8. So which means, like we said, square we cancel square root. This square we cancel this square root, and the answer is 8. So the square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 64 is what? 8. The square root of 64 is 8. Okay, now let's go back to the note, right? Okay. So these are different examples we talked about there. You square this, you get this, you square this. Okay. You square 5, meaning 5 times 5, you get 25. You find the square root of 25, you get back 5. So you go this way, they're like reverse. You go forward, you get 25. You square 5, you get 25. You square 5, you get 25. You find the square root of 25, you get back 5. Okay, that's that for that. And let's move on. This is all this we've explained. I've talked about the sign. Like if you find the square root of any number, you get plus minus. Okay, these are squaring the first 25 numbers. Okay, learning to square the first 25 numbers. Now let's talk about factors a little bit. Now we'll go back to above. And let's talk about factors a little bit. Factors. Factors. Okay? Let's talk about factors a little bit. Let's say 12. Let's start with 12. What are the factors of 12? We're looking at, you say, when you say 12, you say 1 times 12, okay? And then you say you can get 12. Those numbers you multiply, you get 12. They are all part of the factors of 12. If you say 2 times 6, you get 12. If you say 3 times 4, you also get 12. These are all factors of 12. Now, if I take them, let's say we itemize them here. See, we can write them out here. Let's write the factors of 12 out now. The factors of 12 will be equal to what? Look at the first factor, 1. 1 is the first factor. Okay, we're not talking about prime factor, we're talking about only factors. So, first factor of 12 is 1, comma. The next factor of 12 is 2. The next factor of 12 is 3. We're not going to repeat the number twice, even if the number is repeated twice. The next factor of 12 is 4. The next factor of 12 is 6. After 4 is 6. Now, once you reach half of the number, 6 is half of 12. 6 is half of 12. Once you reach half of the number, the next factor will be the number itself. The next factor will definitely be the number itself. And 12 is a factor of itself. 12 is a factor of itself. So these are the factors of 12. So now let's choose 18 now. Without doing the division, you tell me what numbers falls under the factors of 18. Obviously 1 is one of them. 2 can go, any number that can divide 18 is a factor of 18. 2 can divide 18, right? So 2 is a factor. 3 can divide 18, so 3 is a factor. 3 is a factor of 18. 4 cannot, 5 cannot, yes, 6. The next one is 6. 6 is a factor. The next one is what? 9. 9 is a factor of 18. After you get 9 is halfway. Once you get to halfway, the next factor will be 18 itself. The next factor will be 18 itself. Will be the next factor, right? Now let's do for factors of 24. Let's do for factors of 24. The first one is 1. 1 is a factor. 2 can divide 24, so 2 is a factor. 3 can divide 24, so 3 is a factor. 4 can divide 24, so 4 is a factor. 5 cannot. 6 can divide 24, so 6 is a factor. 7 cannot. 8 can divide 24, so 8 is a factor. 9 cannot divide 24. 10 cannot divide 24 without a remainder. 12 can divide 24, which is halfway. is a factor. So after halfway, like I said, once you reach half of the number, the next factor is the number itself. The next factor is the number itself, which is 24. 24 is a factor of itself. 24 is also a factor of itself. Now, let's choose another one, 30. So now, what are the factors of 30? 1 is a factor of 30. 2 can divide 30, so 2 is a factor of 30. 3 can divide 30, so 3 is a factor of 30. 4 cannot divide 30. 5 can divide 30, so 5 is a factor of 30. 6 can divide 30, so 6 is a factor of 30. 7 cannot, 8 cannot, 9 cannot, 10 can divide. 10 can divide 30, so 10 is a factor of 30. 12 cannot, 30 cannot, 40, 50 can divide 30. In fact, 50 is the halfway of 30. So after halfway, the next factor is the number itself. After, when you get to half of the number, the next factor is the number itself. So after 50, the next factor is 30. Is that okay? So these are the factors. So for every number, like 42, if we give you 42, for every number, this is how we obtain the factors. Now you know how to do factor. We are going to, the next one we are going to the prime factor. Here, 1 is a factor of 42, 2 is a factor of 42, 3 is a factor of 42, 6 is a factor of 42, 7 can go into 42, 7 is a factor of 42, after 7, 21 is a factor of 42, and 21 is the midway. After 21, the next one is what? The next factor is 42 itself. After 21, the next factor is 42 itself. So now we understood factors. Now it's time, I think it's time for us to go and take a look at the prime factor. It's time to take a look at prime factor. We just simply explain factor, and I believe we already know factors. Now it's time to take a look at the prime factor. Okay, so if you give you a big number, you can always break it down. Let's say you give it 28. 28 is 2 times 14. Okay, so if you are asked to find 28 square, you don't know it, you break it down. 28 itself is 2 times 14. So you break this, then you like this. Let's show this, because you might have some questions where you need this help. Now let's take a look at this. Let's say they ask you to find 28 square, and you don't know, and you are not allowed to use calculator. You're not allowed to use calculator. You don't know. They want you to find 28 square. What you should simply do, you can break it down. Okay? Okay, you can break it down. You know 28 is 2 times 14. 2 times 14, right? 28 is 2 multiplied by 14. So if it's 28 square, you square 2, you also square 14. You square 2, you also square. If you square 2, you know the answer is 4. If you square 40, you know the answer is 196. If you square 40, sorry for that, I brought okay. Okay, I think our whiteboard got a problem, I don't know. Just got a small problem, but nonetheless, if you square this, you're supposed to get 1. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the notes, the text. So So this one, you square 2, you get 4. You square 40, you get 196. So you just say 196 times 4, you get 784. And that is the answer of 28 squared. So you have questions for you. We have questions for you to 30 square. You square 3, you get 9. 0 square is 0, 0. So it becomes 900. It becomes 900. And then this one, 50 square. If you square 5, it becomes 225. Then you put 2 0 in front. So that's 2,500. So that's what we do. You square 25, you get 625. Then you put 2 0 in front, you get the answer to this one. Now let's go to prime numbers. It's unfortunate the board just developed a little problem. Anyway, not to worry, I will just explain from here. For prime factors, we find the prime numbers from we find the prime numbers from prime factors from every number. We already know the prime numbers, right? Prime numbers are, one is not a prime number. Numbers that can be divided by itself and 1. Numbers that has only 2 factors are called prime numbers. Itself and 1 only. Numbers that has only 2 factors, itself and 1 only, they are called prime factors. They are called what? Prime factors. Numbers that has only 2 factors, itself and 1 only, are called prime factors. For example, 2 is a prime factor. The factors are 1 and 2 only. 3 is a prime factor. The factors are 1 and 3 only. 4 is not a prime factor because it has other factors. 5 is a prime factor. 6 is not a prime factor. 7 is a prime factor, or a prime number, sorry. 7 is a prime number. 9 is not, because 9 has 3 as a factor. 9 is not a prime number. 10 is not. 11 is a prime number. 12 is not. 13 is a prime number. 50 is not, because 3 times 5 is 50. So, but 70 is a prime number because 1 times 70 are the only factors for 70. 90 is a prime number because 1 times 90 is they are the only factors of 19. So these are prime numbers. However, we can find prime factors from a given number, like 12. Instead of writing all the factors of 12, we can ask you to tell us the prime factors of 12. You know, today we are doing all the factors of 12. Instead of writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, instead of writing 1, 2, instead of writing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 12 as the factors of 12, we will write only the prime factors of 12 only. And the prime factor, how do you get the prime factor? Divide 12. Break 12 down. 2 into 12, you get 6. 2 into 6, you get 3. Then 3 into 3, you get 1. Meaning 12, the factors are 2 times 2 times 3. So meaning 2 times 2, 2 is considered a prime factor. So meaning 2 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 1. That's 12. 2 to the power of 2, meaning 2 times 2 and 3. So the prime factors of 12 is only 2 and 3. So if they're asking you for prime factors of 12, the prime factors of 12 is only 2 and 3. We are not saying the factors of 12. All the factors of 12 are beyond this one. They're more than this. But if they're asking you for prime factors of 12, they're asking you for only the prime numbers of 12. The prime numbers that can go into 12. It's only 2 and 3. Okay? 5 is not, 7 is not, and so on and so forth. So you know what I mean, right? Okay. Because first of all, you write all the prime factors out. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3, which is 2 to the power of 3, 2 to the power of 2 times 3. So since 2, yes, even if 2 repeats itself 5 times, it doesn't matter, it's still 2. So you just take it as one prime factor, and you take 3 also as a prime factor. Okay, let's move on quickly. Finding the square root using the prime factor. How do you find square root of number using prime factor? What we do here, we actually needed the board. It's easy. Break 81 down. Find the factors of 81. So 81, you say, when you break it down, you say you say 3 go into 81, you get 27, right? You write 81 like you are doing division, like the way I used to do. You write 81, 3 go into 81, you get 27. 3 go into 27, you get 9. 3 go into 9, you get 3. 3 go into 3, you get 1. Meaning my factors are 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 in 4 places. So 3 times 3, that's 9, right? Then another 3 times 3, that's 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So I have 4 3s. Then if you want to use it to find square root, if you want to use it to find square root, all you need to do is 3 and 3, you take only 1 3. 2 3, you take only 1 3. You bracket 2 3s and you take only 1 out of it. You bracket the other 2 3s, you take only 1 out of it. So 3, the one you took out from this 2 3 and the one you took out from another 2 3, you multiply them. 3 times 3 becomes 9. So the square root of 81 will be 9. So that's how we use prime factors to calculate square root. That's how we use prime factors to calculate square root. Okay? And you know we've done it this other way by saying 81 is 9 square. Square cancel square, you get 9. But in using prime factor, this is how we do it. You know, 81 will be equal to 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So I group them. 3 and 3, and then 3 and 3, since there are 4 3s. So this 3 and 3, I write only 1. I take 1 out. This 3 and 3, I take only 1 out. So 3 times 3 becomes 9. 9 becomes my square root. 9 becomes my square root. Is that okay? Same with 225. If you break 225 out, you will get 50 as your square root, because you will be getting, if you break 225 out, you get 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. This 3 times 3, write 1 3, write it out. This 5 times 5, you write 1 5 out. So this 3 you wrote out from here, you know this 2 3, you take only 1 3 out to get the square root. I'm only explaining how to get the square root. This 5 times 5, take only 1 5 out. So 3 times 5, you get 50. 50 is the square root. 3 times 5, you get 50. 50 is the square root. Or another way, you have 3 times 5, 3 times 5. That means 3 times 5 square. So since you are looking for square root, you put the square root symbol on it. So the square root will cancel the square, you get 50. Okay? If you want to go by that way. Okay, so that's that for that. This is where we are stopping for today. This is where we are stopping. Since our whiteboard got problem, we're going to find a way to figure out to resolve the problem, and we will. Therefore, 48, find the square root of 48 using the prime factor method. See, find the square root of 48 using the prime factor method. So you write 48, you divide. 48 divided by 2, you get 24. 24 divided by 2, you get 12. 12 divided by 2, you get 6. 6 divided by 2, you get 3. So 3 is left. 3 divided by 3, you get 1. Okay, so you have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So we're going to take, between these two, we take 1, 2. Between these two, we take 1, 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, right? 2 times 2 is 4. So we get it 4 from here. And then there's 3 raised to power 1. So we put square root on both of them. So the square root, we will not separate them. Separate the square root for this, square root for this. For 4, square we cancel that square root, we get 4. For 3, we find the square root of 3, which is 1.732. So 1.732 times 4, you get 6.928. That will be the square root of 48. Is that okay? So this is where we stop for today. Next class, we're going to look at further details on this chapter. Okay? Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.